In the whole weird, sprawling history of UFOs, some stories just stick with you. They're not just about strange lights in the sky. They have this bizarre, compelling message at their core. So today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous of them all, the story of a smiling man from another world who stopped a salesman on a dark West Virginia road. Just imagine hearing that, not with your ears, but like directly in your head. That was the very first thing Woody Derenberger heard from the being who would completely change his life, and in a lot of ways, kind of ruin it. It's such a calm, gentle message, which is just the complete opposite of how terrifying that whole situation must have been. So, who was this guy? Well, Woody Derenberger was about as ordinary as they come, a sewing machine salesman from West Virginia. In the fall of '66, he was just a regular guy, driving home from a business trip, with absolutely no idea he was about to become a key player in a paranormal wave that would totally grip the entire region. So there Woody is, driving along, when this strange vehicle just swoops down over his van and lands right in front of him, blocking the road. He said it looked like an old-fashioned kerosene lamp, and it was making this deep humming sound. Then a door opened, a man stepped out, and the craft just shot up into the sky without a sound. This guy walks right up to Woody's passenger window, smiling this big, friendly smile, and starts a conversation without ever moving his lips. This stranger said his name was Colt, Indrid Cold, and that he was a searcher from a planet called Lanulos. But what's so wild about this encounter is just how normal he looked. Average height, average build, wearing dark clothes. The only things that were a little strange were his deep tan and this constant kind of unnerving grin that apparently never left his face. Now, here's where it gets even weirder. Woody's encounter? It wasn't some random, isolated event. Nope. It was right in the middle of a month of incredible paranormal activity in the area. A few weeks before, some kids in New Jersey saw a tall, grinning man. And then, just a couple weeks later, the very first sightings of the legendary Mothman started up, just an hour's drive away. For investigators like John Keel, it was all connected, all pieces of some much, much bigger puzzle. But see, Indrid Cold wasn't just some mysterious tourist. He had a mission. He had a message. And that message was all about his homeworld, a place that sounded like a total utopia, especially when you compare it to what Earth was like back in 1966. And this contrast right here is the absolute heart of the story. While America was being ripped apart by the Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, and just plain old greed, Lanulos was described as a world of complete peace and equality. I mean, everyone was honest because they could all read each other's minds, and their economy wasn't based on getting rich, it was based on need. For a world in total turmoil, that was a pretty powerful vision. And when you dig into the details, it gets even more remarkable. People there lived for over a century in perfect health. Their whole society was built around serving the community and a belief in a single universal God. In our economic model, it was basically this form of communism, to each according to his needs. A system where a doctor and a janitor might get paid the same amount if their families needed the same things. So, Indrid Cold apparently asked Woody to be his messenger, to tell the world about Lanulos. But, being the spokesperson for an alien civilization, whether it's real or not, it comes with a price. And for Woody, that price was immense. It would absolutely shatter his life. The fallout was just immediate and brutal. His house was constantly swarmed by the press and gawkers. People called him a liar, a fraud, a lunatic. All that stress completely destroyed his marriage, his kids were bullied at school, and eventually, he lost his job. He paid a truly devastating price just for telling his story. Okay, so this is the point where belief really gets tested. Woody Derenberger seemed totally sincere. Even skeptical investigators who talked to him said they felt he truly believed what he was saying. But when you start to look closely at the actual details he gave, well, that's when this fantastic story begins to fall apart. Yeah, see, the problem is, for all its otherworldly wonder, the world of Landulus seemed suspiciously rooted in the culture, the technology, and even the scientific misunderstandings of 1960s America. Let's break it down. This is where the story really starts to show its earthly seams. Woody said that Saturn had vegetation and that Venus was a pleasant 100 degrees, ideas that were already known to be impossible back then. Their super advanced camera that printed photos instantly sounded an awful lot like a Polaroid, which was a huge deal at the time. And for such an enlightened society, women weren't allowed to fly the ships, which, come on, that sounds a lot more like 1960s Earth than some advanced alien culture.
And then there's the big one, the real kicker for a lot of people, the so-called intergalactic alphabet. Woody actually published it in his book, but when you look at it, it's not some complex alien language. It's a simple one-to-one substitution cipher for English. Literally, their A symbol stands for RA, their B for RB, and so on.
So, okay, if the facts are full of holes, why are we still talking about Indrid Cold today? Why does this one story persist when so many others have just faded away? Well, the answer might have less to do with aliens and a lot more to do with us.
At the end of the day, this was the whole point. Whether Indrid Cold really came from another planet, or maybe from somewhere inside Woody Derenberger's own mind, the function of the story was to deliver this simple, powerful message for a better way to live. A world that's free from all our cycles of hate and greed.
This story of Indrid Cold really acted like a kind of cultural myth. It was like it held up a mirror to a society that was terrified of war, of inequality, of its own worst impulses. Lanulos wasn't just some planet out there in another galaxy. It was a projection of our deepest hopes for peace, for unity, and for a more compassionate world. And really, this is what it all boils down to. John Keel, the investigator who was pretty skeptical of the whole thing, still wrote the introduction to Woody's book because he felt the message was that important. So whether the story is fact or fiction, it asks us a timeless question. Can we build a world without hatred and greed? And that's a message worth hearing, no matter who the messenger is.